grew up watching Bond. I always loved the title sequences.
There's all these, silhouettes of all these girls with the hair and the long legs and the beautiful bodies.
Naked women, weren't they? I mean, skimpily dressed, but no, they were quite naked.
If anyone could get censored on Bond, it was the titles.
It always seems like a Bond film when those titles come up.
Bond title sequences are the most famous in the world.
This is the most recognizable trademark in cinema history. And this is the man who created it, Maurice Binder.
Maurice Binder, probably the greatest of all title artists.
Oh, Maurice Binder was an enormous talent.
I think the opening graphic device of the dots which come across the screen and become a gun barrel that you look down is quite unique in terms of films.
Well, that was Maurice's idea. It was a pure invention of Maurice. He came to me one day when I was in the cutting room and he showed me the component parts.
A lot of people didn't know what it was at the first time they saw it. They didn't realize it was a gun barrel.
I have to admit, when I very first saw it, I thought it was a camera.
It's like the photographer in Antonioni's Blow Up. It's a shot down a camera, it's a shot down a barrel, and this beautifully dressed Englishman comes on like a hard-boiled character from a Dashiell Hammett film.
It's almost like a graphic trademark at the beginning of the film, which immediately sets up the tone of the film.
It's a wonderful image.
Undoubtedly, in the cinema, when people see it, there's a little adrenaline rush where you think, yes, I'm off into another Bond situation.
To the day he died, Maurice told the story about the gun barrel. And the story of the gun barrel was, did he want a piece of it or did he want to get paid? And he regrets to the day he died that he chose to get paid.
Maurice Binder is born in New York City on December the 4th, 1925.
His mother encouraged his drawing in a way that is phenomenal when you think about it. I mean, she didn't fuss at him about school. She arranged after-school classes. She really, really made him an artist.
He had studied engineering, and then he also went to the Art Students League.
He started life at Macy's, a tea-boy, and ended up as art director. He understood about marketing.
During World War II, Binder serves on a ship with the Army Transport Corps. After the war, at 20 years old, he begins doing freelance advertising work in Los Angeles.
He started as a graphic designer and poster designers and so on.
He was the art marketeer for Gilda, that great film.
There were so many films that Maurice had done that he never really spoke about. He never really spoke about any of his great achievements.
He really liked his graphic design in a way almost as much as he loved doing the Bond films.
In 1961, Binder creates the titles for Stanley Donen's romantic comedy, The Grass is Greener.
The Grass is Greener was one of the great titles ever.
Maurice's work on The Grass is Greener was, prior to Bond, as far as he was concerned, his best work.
Attending the premiere are Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, who are preparing their first James Bond adventure, Dr. No. They hire Binder to create the titles.
The title sequence is a masterpiece.
It was really quite simple, but the dot motif, I think, was fantastically modern for the time.
He was interested in technology, he was interested in colour, and he was interested in sex and witticism.
He used the simplest effects, achieving sometimes incredible results. I remember always him playing around with color gelatines.
He loved animation, he loved slow-mo, he loved all those tricks of the trade. I think his choice of colour is really very, very beautiful.
Binder is unavailable for the next two films, From Russia with Love and Goldfinger.
He was busy working on other things. I don't think he was crying in his suit.
Robert Brownjohn creates the title sequences for those two films by projecting images onto women's bodies.
Seeing action elements projected on a body seemed very novel to me as a sort of young guy, and really stuck in my mind.
Maurice Binder returns for 1965's Thunderball.
What actually you have in that title sequence is a movie that almost usurps the movie. He was doing for title sequences what the silk screen artists like Warhol and Eduardo Paolozzi and Richard Hamilton, the English pop artists, were doing for silk screen printing. They were pushing the envelope. They were making demands on the medium that nobody had made before.
He was not only a brilliant graphic designer, he was a brilliant innovator.
The stories I've heard about the language that was spoken between Maurice and the technicians who he demanded of, was colourful. The Thunderball title sequence is a bit like a Louis Armstrong record, it's just 3 minutes of bliss.
Matte artist Cliff Cully recalls working with Binder on the titles for the next 007 film, You Only Live Twice.
We got there, and about 9 or 9:30, Maurice turned up with nothing at all other than his notebook. And he said, "Come on, fellas, we've got to do a title sequence." Well, we were photographing the girls down on this special effects stage. They were being shown in silhouette against the white backing, and they had so much light on these girls that their hair began to smoke with all the lacquer, and they had to kill the lights.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service introduces George Lazenby as the new 007.
My name's Bond, James Bond.
Binder uses the titles to reassure the audience that while the actor may have changed, the character is the same. The hands of the clock move backwards, taking us back through Bond's previous adventures, which we see through an hourglass. By the 1970s, Binder achieves worldwide renown for his innovative titles among audiences as well as filmmakers.
That he broke the ice with what one can do with titles. A lot of people would go to the Bond films to see the titles.
Is one of the things that people came to look at in the Bond films. And the titles became kind of an event in themselves.
He was a star in his own right, and he made something which was quite precious to us all.
Diamonds are forever, forever.
With Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and The Man with the Golden Gun, Binder continues to push the limits of film titles.
What's wonderful about his title sequences is that they move very rapidly. They move from the most crude technical devices very deliberately to the most high-tech.
We have the opening scene, and it was the end of a mission. And then you had Maurice, who gave you the titillation.
Nobody does it better.
We always knew when Maurice was doing a casting call, he'd often do it on weekends at Pinewood Studio, and suddenly all the men would be flying out of the house. Oh, we're just going to go to Pinewood for a couple of hours and check Maurice's girls.
He liked to audition the girls.
If he were photographing a girl's fingernail, it wouldn't be very long before he'd have her stripped off naked. He had a genius for doing that, actually.
In 1975, the partnership between Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman dissolves. Binder remains friends with both.
He was one of the few people that were very close to both Harry and Cubby.
Maurice was the conduit between Harry and Cubby after the breakup. Little messages would go through Maurice.
He had a private life with each individual friendship.
None of us were brought together. We were all kept in compartments.
Everybody that Maurice knew always thought that he compartmentalized his friends. He had little niches for them.
And I think his life was like that. Maurice was very compartmentalized.
The thing is that everybody loved Maurice.
Maurice Binder was more than like an uncle. He was like a second father to us.
Maurice Binder, I was close to, spoke to, saw every day, twice a week up to his death.
And he was our Father Christmas every year.
And every Christmas, we'd have nice Jewish Santa Claus come around and wake us up and give us our presents.
He never had children of his own, so the children of his family, his nieces and nephews, were very important to him. And he was a very big father to a lot of children. A great ladies' man as well. He loved the ladies, big time, but he remained a bachelor till the end.
What Maurice could not do was be committed. He didn't like being backed into a corner. And even though he thought he should have married, I don't think he ever could have, because that would have been the ultimate commitment.